All right, let's start this up. It's 11:04. Let's get this rolling. You know, who's selling a house this weekend? I'm gonna. I'm going to. I have a new listing coming up in Nashville today that I'm going to
Nice.
film after this. 900 grand, and they're buying
Nice.
a house for a million one, basically.
Nice.
That's how we're doing it, right? Because every buyer out there right now has something to sell. So you have to make sure that you kind of corner the market with getting their listing and saying this is the only way it's going to work. Because then they start dreaming stuff up. Oh, my cousins, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, is in real estate, and I was going to give it to her. And they're like, well, that'll never work. And they're like, well, what's the advantage of going with you? I said, you get the house. How's that for an advantage? You actually get to buy the house. That's advantage number one. Advantage number two, I specialize in all this, and I'll get you over. I'll show you how to transfer over from your current house that you want to leave, that we're going to detach from, to the new house that's beautiful, that you can live happily in. How's that? And that's what I specialize in, that type of transition. That's it. Otto, are you seeing a lot of people that have to sell their houses in order to buy?
I am. And another thing that I'm also seeing is a lot of people that have bought right after COVID and now they need to get out. I'm seeing a lot of that. But to touch base on what you just said right now, I just closed one yesterday, and she used to be a realtor, and she gave up because she was a rock star realtor, but she gave up a long time ago, and because she didn't want the pressure. And she's got two cousins that are realtors, but she chose me. And, thank God, I appreciate that we did such a phenomenal job for her, that with her working it, I just listed her cousin's house also. Plus, I'm listing another one in Ontario in 2 weeks. So from her, even though they do have family members that are doing real estate, bypassed them, came straight to me and said, nope, you're our guy now.
Yeah, and you guys, that's not Ontario, Canada, like Toronto. That's Ontario, California, just so you guys know. I just wanted to clarify that. So you didn't think like Otto's playing summer hockey and selling houses outside of Toronto.
No.
He's staying in the warmth. So that's the deal. Dennis, let's kick this off. Let's get it rolling. What was our topic? Tell me the topic again.
It's seller psychology.
Oh, that's a good topic because most of the sellers right now are friggin' nuts. So let's talk about seller psychology and all the issues. I'm gonna, because Otto was on here first. Let's go to Otto. What are you seeing with sellers right now? Are they in reality or are they in la la land?
Well,
what's the psychology of the seller?
It just depends on their motivation. If they want to sell, as long as I typically send a full listing presentation 4 days prior to meeting with them. That way we bring them to reality, whether they like it or not. And the one that I went to that's going live next week, they literally said, well, we want to list for this much. I said, no, the numbers don't lie. And then they said, well, what do you think? And I said, no. So as long as I present them with what the market's dictating, I always like to go a little less right now. You're going to have unrealistic, which one I canceled yesterday because the market told us 43 days on the market. We're not getting any showings. The house is nice. The market's telling us no, nobody's going to pay you that. And I told them we need to do a correction. And they said, no, our house is worth. I said, I'm sorry, I can't sell your house. And I sent them the cancellation right away.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, you can only do what you can do. I mean, last time I checked, and correct me if I'm wrong, Otto, are you in charge of the market out in Menifee, or is the market in charge of the market?
Well, I'm in charge of the homes that I list. But
you're not in charge of the overall market. You're not, the point I'm trying to get to is you're not in charge of the overall market. You can only control what you can control, which is your inventory, your sellers, your deals, That's it. The market is the market. That's what nobody gets. I love when they say, well, all it takes is one. I just have to find that one person. And I say, well, how many stupid people do you think are out there? How many naive people? There's this thing, I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called the internet. They can look up everything, what you bought it for, what birth sign you are, how long you've lived there, and then it gives all these third-party sites that give all these estimates what they feel it's worth, which we all know is kind of BS, but it still influences the consumers. So you have to have those talks with them because they all think their house is the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? Because they're in love with their house. But what they don't realize is if you don't price it 3 to 5% ahead of the market, because we all know attention is worth more than trying to find the needle in the haystack to get a solid price and get them moving. Otherwise, they start getting all over the place and they get crazy. They're like, why can't you sell my house? Well, I've shown it 16 times. Don't get mad at me. Get mad at the 16 people who wasted your time and didn't make an offer. So what is that telling you? They're not agreeing with where it stands in the marketplace. And you have to relaunch it. I don't think any listing right now should go past 21 days. I think it's so detrimental. I think every 21 days, you have to have a come to Jesus meeting with your people and say, all right, let's look at where it's at. Let's look at the feedback. Let's look at the number of showings. Let's look at the competition, the whole deal. And you have to have the 10 seconds of courage to talk some sense into these people. Otherwise, tell them to look in the mirror because they're the buyer. That's it. They're the buyer of their house because nobody else is trying to buy it. How do I know that? Because nobody took pen to paper. That's it. That's my advice on that too. So what else have you seen? Are you seeing people try to pad their price? And how do you talk to them the right way so they don't pad the price? Do you strictly use the data and the information on what's sold ahead of time? Fill me in on that. Otto, you're muted. There you go.
Oh, well, like you said, typically we are getting them under contract right away. I like to be very realistic the minute we walk in, because once again, we have so much inventory coming up here and our buyers right now are being extremely picky. So if we can't come in very aggressive from day one, I mean, we're not going to undersell the home, but like you said, the market's in charge of the market. Then I just will not take the listing. I have passed on quite a few because it's just not worth it. It definitely is not. And I'm not going to spend the time or money or the headaches worrying about something that I personally know it's not going to work. So if they're not realistic on where they need to be, I'm walking away. And I've never been more comfortable doing that now than ever. And I've only been in this business 9 years. So, I've heard people say, well, take them. It's okay. Pat them. You could do a price correction later. No, because those conversations get harder and harder later.
I agree. And I think sometimes when you pad it, we all know it's not an exact science, but numbers don't lie. Numbers aren't prejudice, right? And right now, every market, and I'm not trying to speak in generalities, but majority of the markets, I should say, are having a supply and demand problem. What I mean by that is there's a massive amount of supply coming on that's sitting there, and the demand is low due to rates and buyer psychology and wars and the economy and, somebody stubbing their toe or having to pay more than they thought at the grocery store or something, right? So it makes consumers get paralyzed. And then when they do decide to make that leap and they find a house, it gets really grindy if they're not agreeing with the price and they're testing numbers and all types of crazy stuff. So you have to be on with your numbers. And like I said before, you guys, because attention is more important than padding, right? Attraction is more important than padding. What I mean by that is you want to attract and grab attention of the best buyers in the marketplace. And that's way more important than trying to pad the price. So that's my philosophy. Let's go over to Cam. Look at Cam's in North Carolina now, you guys. He's North Carolina and Florida. the North Carolina sun is way different than the Florida sun. It's done wonders for him. Look at him. He's got great color. He doesn't have to wear sunscreen inside like he used to. He's living a whole new life. Cam, what's the psychology that you're seeing with sellers right now in this type of market where the market is moving, I think, weekly, not monthly, not quarterly, not bi-yearly, like weekly, right? Because it's a race for equity, right? That's the best way to put it. You know, you're only as good as the last sale. You're only as good as the competition around you and who's buying what. Go ahead.
I think right now, now again, I don't want to be a doomsdayer, but you guys are seeing what we seen in South Florida, at least here a few years ago, where the market started shifting and it was visible. You could see that the market had shifted, and the smart sellers were able to quickly change their mindset from the longer we wait, the more we make, to the faster we sell, the more we preserve, right? And that is, and at least this is South Florida. Here in North Carolina, it's fun because now I can go back and forth here. North Carolina's market's very different. It's actually still growing. Prices are flat, but homes are still selling and just about the same that they are coming on the market. So in this little pocket here in Raleigh or in the Triangle area, there is still job growth and there's still people moving here specifically because they're being, pushed here. And it's totally different than what we see in South Florida, which is a true second home, vacation home, investment market. And kind of going to your point, the people in Southwest Florida that were able to get out the soonest made the most. And that is, what I would be kind of trying to influence to your clients is, we believe we've seen the peak. And, the only place that we believe it can go from this direction is going to go down. Now, if you do decide to hold it, because that's really most sellers' mindsets is, if I couldn't get what I could get during COVID, we're just going to hold it. And one of the tools that we use is we created a chart, just a line graph, that shared with our clients the difference between when they were able to sell their homes prior to 2008 crash and how long it actually took to get back to the peak of 2008, right? And this was an easy way to visualize for them that it truly took about until 2014, 2015 in Southwest Florida to get back to that peak 2006 boom that we had. That was very similar to COVID. So that graph kind of shows them that, if you want to get back to today's prices, you could very well be waiting 7, 8, 12 years, depending on how the markets change up. And it allows them to help them decide if, they want to make that aggressive price, reduction, or if they do want to list right now. Otto's mentioning, talking about being more selective on listings, and especially if you're prospecting the expireds, the for sale owners, right now you have to be picky. You do not want to get 25 listings that all hate you, and you don't want to make that call, and it makes your whole week miserable because you're worried about making that call on Friday. And the trick to that, you guys, and I don't want to take up a lot of time because I know we got a great panel on today, but the trick with the price reduction system, which everyone has to go through, because literally every seller, no matter what they tell you, they want to get as much as they can. If they're willing to try for an extra 25, 50, whatever it may be for their price bracket, they want to try for that. The solution, though, you guys, and this is one thing that we've been using, the past few years during the price de-escalation, is explaining to them up front that in 7 days you're going to reduce the price, and you already have the form here that they need to sign. And this reduction is, we're willing to try your price, but if we get no showings and it's totally dead, that means we need to reduce, and it's going to be probably more than even this reduction. So you need to be expecting that we are going to test this market, and testing means that we're going to keep making changes and making changes until we figure out what works. And at that point, you get to decide, do I want to sell this home for this much, or do I want to keep it for the 8, 12, 15 possible years that it could be that, you will lose that much equity if it does go down and, you continue through the market. Now, here in Southwest Florida, it's just come to reality. I mean, our prices have come down. I've told you guys this over and over. Oh, it's rough, man. People are, at what they've purchased in 2018, 2019. That's the sales price right now, and they're still coming down. So the sooner that your clients across the country that are still in decent markets or still in markets that have just peaked, the sooner that they're able to kind of grasp that they're at the top right now and it's a great time to, possibly diversify, the faster they can make that decision for them, guys. One thing you'll have to remember in a downward trending market, you can't force people to sell. You just will never do it. You can't convince them. You have to help them. You have to educate them. And then you have to let them make the decision that right now is a good time to sell. And there is nothing that's going to be able that they can pray about that's going to turn this around real quick. And we're going to go back to COVID prices. You can talk about being in the panel. You can talk about the education. I always tell, I always talk to my clients about our lender advisors. So if you have a lender advisor that, does kind of the national, what we call it? We'd call it like they're guessing, or they're not guessing, but they're shoot, Pete, come on, help me here, buddy. They're forecasting. They're forecasting. So I always tell my sellers is that, hey, my lender's forecasting. He's a big guy. He's on the stages and that kind of stuff. And they're not forecasting this to turn around. And so far we've pretty much been right that they're looking at that it's been a slow kind of gradual step-by-step decline in prices. By giving that third-party validation at that initial meeting, you're setting yourself apart not only as a realtor that knows the real estate stuff, but you actually know what's going on around the country. You know what's going on in Southwest Florida. You know what's going on in Raleigh. You know what's going on in San Diego. And you can use that as your advantage to educate. You can let them know by telling them, you guys, you are the advisor. You can let them know, and then they can make the best decision possible. But like Otto said, don't be taking overpriced listings just to take overpriced listings, because you will hate yourself, because you'll get a bunch of listings. Everybody wants to, that's a great way to get easy listings. But that weekly check-in call becomes something that you absolutely regret doing, because everybody wants positive news. Everybody wants to hear something good. And when you go week after week and say, we didn't get a showing, didn't get a single showing, didn't get a showing, they go, what do I hire you for? So that is something that you want to prevent up front. Make sure that you're proactive or proactive on getting price reductions. Explain to them that's what's coming, and so that they're prepared for it. That way, when it happens, they're like, oh yeah, Cam, you already told us about this. We'll sign it. We'll get to it right away. Much easier than having to come at it later. So that's my advice, you guys.
No, I think it's great. I like the chart showing how to get from here to there in real time, because see, most sellers feel, based on the information that they give us, that all they have to do is wait a year. And in a year, it's going to be a completely different market. I'm going to be up 10, 20% on my price, which is so crazy. It's unreal, but they don't understand how it moves. A lot of times the real estate market, outside of weird situations, and I'm going to get to Dave Lawson next because I know he has to add on this, it's like moving an oil tanker in a pond. Right? It takes time. And I read the other day, and we're going to go to Chris Goodman from Rise too. He'll give us a quick update on rates. But the head analyst of Bank of America basically said, be prepared. They think there's going to be 3 rate hikes coming this year. Not rate deductions, rate hikes, because they're trying to control inflation and other things. And if you don't believe me, go spend money. It'll blow your mind. I mean, go to a restaurant. You can't get out of the restaurant unless you clean the plates for under $100. It's impossible. And, that's going to affect consumerism. It's going to affect the buyer pool. It's going to affect the seller pool, right? So it's supply and demand. And it builds up quickly. You could have 5, 10 houses in your area come on the market in the next 3 days. That gives buyers more choices. And if there's more inventory and less demand, what do you think happens to prices? They don't go up. And I like giving the options to sellers, saying, here are all your options. Yeah, we know to get back to today, it's going to take you 6 to 8 years. Do you want to be a landlord and deal with all the headaches and all the deferred maintenance and all the complaints, not to mention that the people could possibly not pay you? And in the state of California, they get to live there for 6 months for free. It'll take you 9 months to get them out of there. That's if they don't destroy your house. And you have no rights as an owner. So you have to explain this to them and say, what kind of concerns me about that is this. All right, let's go over to Dave Lawson. That was great stuff, Cam. I loved it. Good job. Dave, give me some insight. And I know you're in a very luxurious market in Park City and Salt Lake City, but give me some insight that you're seeing recently with the psychology of sellers and how they're looking at things and how they're approaching selling their house.
Well, I got a lot to think about, I tell you, but I'll try to make it quick, Pete. First of all, so the Salt Lake market is really pretty good. I won't say it's a complete seller's market, but it's leaning toward a seller's market. Park
Okay.
City is sort of flat. In certain segments, it's leaning slightly to a buyer's market. But we're not in South Florida, and we're not in Southern California, and we're not in just name every area that you're in. The market is the market. You can't control what the market is. You have to know how to work around it. So here's a few things that I wrote down as I was preparing for this call. The first thing is you have got to you got to stop thinking that things are going back the way they used to be, right? So we've developed a few ideas and things that we're doing, Pete, to stop people from thinking that that's going to happen. So Pete, you mentioned that you want to wait till the COVID pricing, right? Do you
Yeah,
remember
I'd like
what?
to get I'd like to
Yeah,
get a little bit higher price than you're suggesting, Dave. So what do I
yeah.
do?
And you know what? If I were you, you and I, we're very much alike. I'd like to get that price too. But in reality, you know what caused that? It was a
Don't know.
pandemic. So it was a
Oh,
pandemic. And then the second thing that happened was the reaction from the government to artificially take rates down to 3%. So raise your hand if you want interest rates at 3% again. And almost everybody would want to raise your hand. And I'd say, no, you don't, Pete. Absolutely, positively, you don't want that. Because right now, you know what it's going to take? I think it's going to take a major war on American soil, or it's going to take a pandemic that shuts down our country. That's how we're going to get 3% interest rates. So that's not happening. And frankly, I don't want it, and I don't think you do either. So that's been really successful with our team to explain people that, right? I talk about my business and economics background, right? I go, there's one thing I do know. It's all about supply and demand. I go, it was a long time ago, but I do remember one thing. It's supply and demand, right? Right now, there is so much more supply and the demand is low. And the only way to get prices up is to either have no more properties on the market or to double, triple the amount of buyers. And neither of those things are going to happen either. And then I use this, write this down, gang. Pete, I hate to tell you this, but you know what the market is right now in South Florida? It's a beauty contest and a price war at the same time. It's a beauty contest and a price war at the same time. Cam, do you agree, yes or yes, that the homes that are selling in Florida are being sold at really, really, really good pricing and they're the finest homes on the market?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they sell
Right.
quickly, you guys. They sell quickly when priced correctly.
Yeah. So the thing is, but when you say that term and I notice what I did, Pete. I apologized before I said, Pete, I'm going to tell you something you're not going to like. But our market in South Florida, it's a beauty contest and a price war at the same time. Okay. So much so that Otto, thank you, thank you, thank you for saying what did Otto do a few days ago? He fired a client. You know, we got 37 listings right now today. And I used to coach people that periodically you need to look at your listings and you need to go back and you need to fire 20% of all your listings. And the conversation goes like this, Otto, you know what? When I made a mistake, Otto. I'm really sorry. When I took your listing at $850,000. I was really hopeful that we could get the price, and I know you were hopeful, but what we've found is that the market is telling us that that's not the case. So I think we only have two options. Number one, we need to just cancel the listing. Or two, we need to lower the price to $775. What would make you more comfortable, Otto? Because I don't want to give you the thought that I can actually sell your house now at 850. We've already tried it. It's been on for 3 months. And, we know one thing that we know. I've been in this business 27 years. I know one thing or two things that are always true with listings. They sell or they don't. If you don't get any activity, your home is 10% overpriced. And by the way, Otto, that's my professional coach telling me for the last 20 years or whatever. That's my coach telling me. In other words, that's not me telling you. I blame it on my coach. And then I say, and if you've got a lot of showings, but you haven't got any offers, it's 5%, right? So those are some things that really, really make a big, big difference. And the other thing is, write this one down. Price reductions are a marketing tool. Price reductions are a marketing tool. So Otto, I just want you to understand, if you choose to take your home off the market, I completely understand. But if what you want to do, I do want to let you know one thing about a price reduction. Can I share that with you?
Please.
Price reductions are another marketing tool. When we lower your price to $775, can I share with you what's going to happen? Yes. Well,
Yes.
It's going to show up at the top of Zillow and Realtor.com and a lot of other websites. I'm going to send an update to all of the agents that even inquired on the property. I'm going to let the agents in our marketplace, the 1,400 agents, know that we've reduced the price. When I talk to the agents, I'm going to make it, the three agents that looked at our home in the last 3 months, I'm going to personally call them and I'm going to say, hey, Mitch, hey, Cam, hey, Rob, hey, you showed 123 Main Street and you told me the home was overpriced. I went to the seller agreed, and he wanted me to call you and let you know that on Friday we're going to lower the price on 123 Main Street from $850 to $775. We want to give you the first opportunity to bring it back to your client. And see, now it's a marketing tool, and it gives us basically another full chance to remarket your property. How's that sound, Otto? Great.
I love
right?
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
you were very upfront, and I want to move to Park City, so let's do it.
Yeah. And the thing is when do your clients like options, yes or yes? Do they like the option of let's pull it off the market? No, they want to sell. But see, when you lead with, I think we should consider pulling it off the market or doing the price reduction because I can't sell your home at this price. That's not, am I begging for a price reduction? I don't like to beg, right? So anyway, that's what I had prepared. Thank you.
Love it. That was great stuff. I was writing the whole time. My wrist is killing me. I feel like I'm in one of those classes that I have to take down notes as quickly as possible. Let's go over to JP, John Pacilio in Indianapolis. Boiler up. How are you dealing with the sellers in your market and getting them realistic about pricing and actually selling?
Well, step one is, I may have shown this to you before. It's a little spreadsheet that my assistant puts together. You can't really read this. Happy to send it to you. But every $100,000 price increment, It has how many sold in the last 1 year, 12 months, how many active are on the market in the school system, because that's what people care about in my market. They care about being in the Carmel school system, the Fisher school system, that where they Zionsville. These are some names that are very familiar for people that are relocating here. Eli Lilly is $1 trillion company. They move a lot of people here, so they already know where they want to live. So I pull up price bands, and then my assistant provides this to me every month, once a month. And when I get to the bigger ones, I go 50 or $500,000 price points. So I can talk about the absorption rate. I can talk about actives on the market. And it, first of all, gets me up to speed. So, and I have it in a reference. I carry it around in my book. So I'm always an expert in the areas I work, no matter which area I'm in. So
Yeah.
the good news here is our inventory, we're slow and steady here in Indiana. It's kind of like how I talk, slow and steady. I'm not a Bostonian where I'm going to go rapid fire on you. But I can tell you, all the way up to $2 million, we only have 2.1 months of inventory. That's pretty nice. It's a nice position to be in. So my conversations are different than a lot of you out there. When we're over 2 million, it's 4 months, 5 months, depending on which area you're in. But I start with this. But one of the biggest things I think we can identify, and I appreciate what Dave is talking about. He's got a laundry list of listings right now, 37 of them. So I just wrote down what you always come up with, the 7 different Ds. 7 Ds, is it? It's death, divorce, diapers, downsizing, diamonds. These are the reasons why people move, right? And I just went down, all the people I'm working with right now are on that list. I've got a guy, unfortunately, is going through a divorce right now, but he just paid $150,000 over list price to get this house. They had 11 offers on it. Do you think he cares about what his kids are going to use the pool? You think he's going to back out because he had the wherewithal to come up with the extra money? It appraised $150,000 less than what he bought it for, but 11 people wanted that same house. It was priced very reasonably. So motivated people, right? I sold my daughter a house. Let's talk diapers. She just had a baby. Downsizing. I'm working with 2 people right now. One's moving to Florida. He's buying a house like today. And he is getting his house ready. I'll be there this afternoon to make sure he doesn't go with the cheap carpet, right? We need a quality carpet. So being involved with all these motivated people really help your close ratio, and it keeps me active every day. But I got a call this morning from somebody just out of the blue that had their father passed away, and she was asking me what to do with the house, and and I said the door. She said the door's open. I'm out of state. I'm going to run down there. So I'm going to run down there and take a walk through and give her some ideas how she can maximize. But that's another D, right? So these are all motivated people, and those are the ones I focus on every day, and it pulls through to closings. I'm in a little bit different environment. We didn't go up as high as you guys did, but we didn't go down as hard. We don't go down as hard. So I guess I'm fortunate in that we're slow and steady here in this market.
Hey, John, will you remind everybody so they can write down the 7 Ds? I know there's 7 Ds. I only know 6 of them. So help me out. What are they?
Well,
I have death, divorce, diapers,
yeah,
diamonds, destination, downsizing. That's 6. And I know there's a 7.
I've got another one here, but Pete may have it.
When it's downsize, upsize, by the way. But go ahead.
I have one written down.
Denial?
Debt. I've got debt. Debt.
Like
Debt. DEBT. Now that was my own.
Oh, debt. That's it.
Is that the one?
It.
Somebody put it in the chat. Put the 7 Ds in the chat so people remember it.
So debt. I have another friend. He's in real estate. He's getting rid of all his debt by selling his house because he's up a bit.
There you go.
Distress.
That'd be debt, usually. You got that right. I'll put them in there. Okay, but that's what I have for you. Focus on the people that are motivated. It cleans your list up by itself. And then that's impressive that you can fire 20% of your listings. I typically don't. Another thing I did just today, use your creativity. This is a little different than most of you guys that don't have a lot of land around. So this listing is pretty far out there. It's a big number in a rural area. It's 42 acres. In a rural area, it's only 650. It's pretty cheap, really. And if it was here, it's 6 million. But what I did was I separated two parcels, and the house, the barn, and the improvements on 16 acres is going to be 350, and the other piece of ground is going to be 240,000. I think we came up with. But I'm not selling the ground before we sell the improvements in the 16 acres. So that's a creative way to present to the market at a lower price. I'm going to get a lot more traffic at that house. And I guarantee you, whoever buys that place is going to want that land right next to it. So that's just another little creative way to make an adjustment for a sort of a farms and ranch kind of product.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to debt, a lot of people would typically pull out an equity line if they had equity, right? But you have to remember too, guys, when you go to do a HELOC, the bank is going to cap you at a certain amount, and they still have to appraise the house. And they're not usually aggressive on the price that they give you for the house. So you usually don't end up with the amount of money you think you can pull out of the house. And that doesn't change your debt structure. That adds to your debt structure. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people will say that as far as sellers, I can just get a HELOC. Yeah, if you want to pay 8.5% on your money, yeah, they'll give you the money, but they're not going to give you the amount you think they're going to give you, because HELOC appraisals are way lower than market appraisals, because they're conservative. The banks are nervous about it, right? And the rates aren't going to just magically go from 6.5, 7 down to 4. It doesn't happen. That takes time. It's like anything else. It'll take over 2 years for that to happen, if it even happens. I predict in 2 years, the rates will be in the high 4s. I mean, Chris Goodman, our partner with Rise, can speak on that more. Chris, where do you think rates are going, and how can you use some information to talk to sellers about the market, the rates, HELOCs, debt, the whole thing?
I may have a little bit of a controversial take on rates, and it's that it's so far out of our control that it's impossible to predict, right? So everything that John spoke about really resonates with me, because I always like to lean into the emotional side of real estate, and what's going on in people's lives that are encouraging them or taking them on the journey to buy or sell. We interact with a lot of our past clients on our team, which is a really robust, a couple of thousand deep. And so we get to talk to people through their evaluating whether to sell or not as well, which a lot of lenders don't, right? Because a lot of lenders are generally dealing with buyers. But as far as rates are concerned, it's not that I'm not concerned about it. I very much study what everybody is saying and forecasting. The problem is, just like anything in life, you have conflicting perspectives and the unknown perspectives. If anything's proven that, it's the last 5 years. We've had multiple, what we like to call black swan events, that have had an impact on interest rates that nobody could have foreseen. It's happening right now, right? First, it was COVID. And then this year, interest rates had actually dipped down quite a bit. And with some of the geopolitical stuff happening around the world, rates jumped back up quite a bit. The reality is we don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball. I do believe that over the next 12, maybe even 24 months, to what you said, Pete, we will see rates come down. It's kind of, maybe that's me just being stubbornly optimistic. Because again, there could be black swan events that we don't know that affect things, but I generally believe that we've been sitting at a level that's so high that things are going to improve. I believe that the Fed chair and the changing of the guard there is going to have not a very quick improvement on interest rates overall, but it's going to be methodical and will bring those down, in the way that everything comes together. Because as many of you on the call know, or if you don't know, when we hear about the Fed raising or lowering the Fed funds rate, that is not a direct correlation with long-term mortgage rates, but it's like a domino effect. Some things change, which lead to other things changing. And it doesn't necessarily happen in correlation, but it all comes together, right? I try to look at, it's funny, I had a call yesterday from a buyer in the afternoon that I hadn't spoken to in a year. It was funny. I looked at my phone. I'm like, I know this name. We got on the phone. He reminded me that we spoke a year ago. And this is a perfect example, I think, of the fatigue that we see some buyers and sellers have out there. He reminded me that we spoke a year ago. We had a great conversation about him qualifying for a house, but he took the stance that he was going to wait to see if prices came down and rates came down. We're now a year later. Prices in the market that he's looking at have really sustained. They haven't really, I think they might have gone up like 2% or 3% where he is. So they've actually gone up, the data shows. And rates are right about where they were when we spoke, give or take. And now his daughter's a year older. And that's the pressure point, because they live in a community that is not geared toward raising children. And his daughter's now, going from 9 to 10, and he sees the growth, and he's like, we really need to be in a different style community. And I think there's a lot of people in the world like that, whether they're buying or selling, that are experiencing one of those 7Ds, right? In their life. And I just always lean into that and focus on that. It's not that data is not important. Data is super important. And there's no doubt that when rates come to a certain point, you're going to see a lot more buyers taking action. But we just try to, attack everybody one-on-one and see what's really, really important to them. But as far as, actually rates are going to move, I think we have nowhere to go but improve. Even if we see them hike up a little bit in the interim. I think that just, day-to-day combat, we always can talk more about the opportunities for rate buy downs through seller concessions. I think as an industry, we don't talk enough about the temporary rate buy down strategy. And if you're familiar with that, it basically provides somebody with interest rates 2 to 3% below market. It's only for a temporary period, but it's a great stepping stone for 2 to 3 years from now. And that's a conversation we could talk about more another time, but I just wanted to share that because even I forget to market and discuss that more and more over time. Like, it was a hot topic for a while, and it's a great strategy because the reality is we're seeing 50 to 60% of contracts come across desks nationally with either price reductions, seller concessions, or even both. So the opportunities are there, to negotiate some really good deals in certain cases. So I don't know. I always see, again, I'm stubbornly optimistic. So to me, I'm in the real estate business. So like you guys, I always see the opportunity and the positives within it. But right now it's a tough time that we just have to go deeper with people to find out what's important to them and where their life is going. Because, and I'll say this because as I get older, I realize how quickly time flies. So it's nice to share that with clients over time, like the gentleman yesterday. That's like, wow, another year has gone by. I haven't taken action and my family needs to. So what do they call that? Fatigue, like buyer and seller fatigue out there, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in house. I think it was last week on this call.
Nobody's ever got ahead by staying status quo.
That's right. That's right. And I think it was last week, somebody said something really important on this call, which is so true. There was a lot of people that bought homes during COVID in a rush because they needed to just to get in the game. And they're not necessarily, I don't want to say not happy, but maybe the house just doesn't meet their needs. And this is where fatigue is settling in because we're now year 4 or 5 since, the rate environment has gone up, since we've seen a slowdown. So I think, it's just going belly to belly with people and finding out what's important to them and really going deep with people. And I love the more expectations we set up front, whether it's a buyer. For me, when I'm having an initial buyer consultation, I'm really educating people about the market along with their realtor. or you guys, when dealing with sellers, just setting such aggressive expectations up front is just the best thing that we can do.
Yeah, no, that's great. Let's go over to Lurch. Lurch, give me an idea of what's going on in the Philly market. How are you talking to these sellers? How are you getting them back to reality and out of la la land? Because we always know sellers are usually 6 to 12 months behind the market. You know, they heard their cousin's brother's sister's uncle sold his house down the street all cash, you know, in two seconds off market and got a top price. So how are you talking to your sellers right now to get them positioned correctly in this market?
Going back to a matter of fact, I was running a little late getting on the call because I had a 11 o'clock revisit with a client that I had lost the listing 85 days ago or 80 days ago. And the bottom line came down to it is this is a luxury home, and we went through where we're going to reposition it and why we're going to do it. But one of the biggest things that I'm telling everybody is you want to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the third realtor right now. And I say, I don't want to be the third realtor, but I'm going to tell you the truth that the third realtor is going to tell you now. And if you're up for the truth, I'm up for the conversation. And the truth isn't just me. And you got to be able to back it up. Do the work. Like John did some of the stuff there. Dave has his numbers there. What we've done is we've embraced some of the things that we've learned with Nick Krem, who's been on the show here. We take the data, we've taken the information we're seeing, and we're jamming it into AI. And we're leaning on the AI to help us. And now that it's not so much me throwing up on them about a price, it's the market talking to it through a thing that they're hearing that is analyzing it greater than just me. It's using the universe's information of what's taking place. It's putting it into a presentation that is done through a PowerPoint and movable and numbers and all those things with the comparisons and graphs that you couldn't do. And it doesn't take more than 15, 20 minutes to do it. You just got to be in the right room knowing how to do it. And if you haven't done the Nick Krem, go sign up for him, do it. If you need another one, I've got Bruno Estates, friends of mine, that have another one. But use this AI bots to start showing the information because there's a credibility greater than what you're just telling. So that's what we're doing. We actually just did all our listings this morning. We recomped everything. We put them into the AI bots, and now we're sending them to the sellers, asking them to have conversations with what they see. But they can't, if they're only hearing, oh, the market's this, the market's that, is one thing. But if you give them the data and it's coming from the new hottest gold rush, AI, hey, everything on the internet's true, right? So everything in AI has got to be truthful, right? Lean on that and use it as your strength versus your weakness.
And ask them too, and I think that's a good point, Lurchy, you know, send them the data. Data does not lie. Data is not prejudice. And say, based on this data, what are you seeing in this data? Mm-hmm. And let them tell you. And some of them, you know, that'll tell you their motivation right there. Are they delusional or are they in alignment with the market? Because if they're out of alignment, then you got to send them to your chiropractor, right? To get their head on straight. Because they're just going to keep sitting there and they're going to expect a different result.
I want and everybody go back to the basics. We all look at, oh my God, we've gotten so Zoomy, we've gotten so phone call-y. In the Italian mafia world, tough conversations are held at the dinner table, are held at a table, are held face-to-face. You're going to have a tough discussion with a seller, get your ass in the car and drive there. Or you don't deserve the reduction. Take the time. You're getting paid to do the job. Say to them, hey, look, tough discussions should be done face-to-face. I'm coming to have a coming to God with you. You may not like it, but at the end, at least we know we had the conversation. You know, I don't want to break news that you're dying of cancer on the phone. The doctor tells you to come to the office. And by the way, bring somebody to drive you home. You know, so start using those tactics and start using the touchy-feely again that we got away from that makes us stand out as a professional, that gives us the professional fees that we're requesting, that we deserve. in a marketplace that's agents are leaving and there's an uproar of sellers are trying to cut prices and paying us for a job they don't have. So find a way to do it. That's how I'm doing. I'm just going to them. We're using AI. We're marketing it the right way. We're giving them the information, but then we're also willing to, like you said, get rid of 20% of them. I'm not getting rid of them, but at the same time, I'm going to take the bullet because if I lose them, I lose them.
Lurch, how are you comping stuff using AI? You just asking ChatGPT what's the value of this property and giving it some background info, or what?
No, we did that Nick Krem system, and in that Nick Krem system, there is a whole bot that actually can help do that stuff. But we're taking the information, we're putting it into our ChatGPT, then we're taking it and then we're putting it into our Claude. The Open AI, which is the ChatGPT, has like 100 million views, where the other one's 300. But the other one's more analytical in what it does. And then what we do is we cross it with Gemini, and we're getting it to cross talk. So we're doing what they're calling it stacking. So we're stacking the software to talk to itself, taking the information from one to the other, and then it's giving us an overall better product than just one point of view. It's given us 3 different points of view of 3 different ways of presentation and 3. One's very good in graphic, one's very good in systemizing, and one's very good in general. So once you stack them, it talks to it. It talks different. So, but you got to take the information. I literally take the multiple listing sheets. So
the other thing too, like that Lurchy's great at, you guys, and he makes a good point. You got to get belly to belly. Drop in, carry the data, and bring something with you. Everybody likes cupcakes. Everybody likes brownies. Everybody likes booze, whatever it is. Bring them something, because they feel like you're taking money out of their bank account because they had a set price in their mind and the market's not agreeing with it. You have to get on their side and say, look, the market's not agreeing with what we are trying to do. In order to get you to where you want to go, this is what we have to do. Maddie, how are you talking to sellers right now? We got 4 minutes. Take us home. What are you seeing out there? I know you've had some listings, you've lost some listings, you've not taken some listings. What are you seeing?
I'm not doing anything really differently. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said. I don't know who I learned this from years ago, but when you're on a listing appointment, you really want to separate the pricing from, are they going to select you as their agent? So you first hit them with everything that you're going to do, your track record, your marketing, all the reasons that they should use you. You got to build rapport, because Lurchy, I heard that somebody was telling me that Lurchy had AI do a country song or something about why they should list with him. And I think that's great. Or what, I don't know.
I just got the listing. The listing that I'm getting right now, that I was just on the phone, was listed at 1,525. I'm getting the listing at 1,350. And that thing helped seal it. That
the country song?
That country song sealed it.
Yeah. Well, and the reason that country song sealed it is that people work with people that they like. And that's what a lot of us that have been in this business a long time, is we think we've got, we do in our track record and all that. And whenever I don't get a listing, I used to call up the seller and say, I understand you went with John Pacilio. I'm just curious why, what was it about him? And they would always come up with some ridiculous reason, like, and the real reason was they liked John better.
Yeah.
That was the reason. So you got to build rapport.
He has more hair than you.
Yes, more hair. That head of hair.
It was a hair thing.
I can't blame him. I can't blame him.
It's got to go. It's got to be, you've decided that you're going to list with me or with us. Now let's talk about the price, because you shouldn't pick who you're going to list with based on the price. That's critical, because if you allow them to use where you're going to price the house as their criteria, you're going to end up taking a lot of overpriced listings, right? Because nobody wants to. That's not a pleasant conversation. The other agent said the house is worth 3.2, and I'm saying it's worth 2.8. Well, we're not going with Matt. That guy wants us to give the house away. Forget it. We're going Pacilio at 3.2 all day long. So You got to separate the two. That's what I think. That's really, really important,
Yeah,
especially
I like
when the market's slowing down.
Well, that's a good point, because if you don't separate the two, they shut down, right? When they say, "Oh, what do you think my house is worth?" You should be saying, "Well,
Yeah.
do you feel I'm the right agent to help you and your family make this move?" Then we can discuss price after we discuss that. If you don't,
And I always say, at the end of the day, it's up to you guys where you want to price it, because as long as they understand that I think that house should be listed at 2.8, if that's the only way I'm going to get the listing is to list it higher, sure. But then 3 weeks into it, I'm going to say, look, we got to have a conversation. It's crickets, right?
Yeah, I think that's super important. And how often, Maddie, are you talking to your sellers right now? Once a week?
Oh yeah. I've talked to them for sure. I talk to them because the way I keep in touch with my sellers is actually me, and Diane helps me with this, but we schedule all the showings. So we're always in communication with them, right? And if we have no showings, then we're in communication with them about the fact that we've got no showings, right? So it's pretty easy for me. I mean, I used to carry, dozens and dozens, and I used to carry hundreds of listings at a time, and I don't do that anymore. So it's a hell of a lot easier to keep in touch with, half a dozen or a dozen, right? But yeah, you can't disappear on your sellers either, because then the listing's just going to expire and they're not going to relist with you.
Yeah, one of the best things we did is we came up with a system through our VA that gives an update of every single thing we did every single week on every single listing. It's helped us not only keep listings, but it's really, really helped us get listings, because we tell the people up front.
Yeah.
That's
and
how we're going to communicate.
I do that through, well, as far, I pretty much all my listings go under EXP Luxury. And so everybody gets, a weekly update, right? From showing where all the marketing's happening, which is great.
Love it. All right, we're right at 12. Everybody have a successful weekend. Get out there, sell, sell, sell. There's people who want to buy. There's people who want to sell. That's the best recipe you can have in real estate right now. So just go find the motivated people and get them to their dream life. You got to ask people, are you happy with where you're living right now? Or do you expect more? Do you want to be in a different place? If you want, this is the time to buy right now. This is the way to go. So you got to get people hyped up and motivated and going. And then invite people to our mastermind next Thursday, you guys, same time, and have those conversations. Get the people on this mastermind so they can ask their questions, or they can get great tips that help their production. Okay, thanks for coming. We'll see you guys next week.
See you, everyone.